Hey guys, and welcome to my very first deck profile video. In this video, I'm going to be profiling Qliphorts, the amazingly overpowered deck. Alright, if you want this deck, just download it in the description and you can play with it on DevPro. Yeah, alright, so let's get started. So, like in any Qliphort deck, run 3 scouts. Scout is like the main supporter of this deck. Um, have it in your pendulum zone, pay 100 life points, and you could add one Qli monster or card from your deck. So I mean, it's unbelievably the most amazing card in this deck. Um, Next I want run towers. I only run one because I mean, once you have one on the field, it's pretty much they're gonna use a lot of resources just to get over this one card since it's unaffected by spells and traps and affects whose monster's level is lower than his. So I mean, I just run one so I can have other cards in my deck. But if you want, you could take out, I don't know, a different card from this deck or something, or add another one. But me personally, I just like to run one towers. Next up, double shells. Um, I really don't have a main reason why I only run two and not three, but for some reason I just picked two, and it's worked for me so far. So, um, he's pretty amazing. When you tribute summon him, you get to attack twice if you use Qliphort monsters, which is the only type of monsters you have in here. And he even does piercing damage, I believe. Not quite sure on that, but yeah. Um. All right. So next up is triple disc. Um. Again, he's pretty. This card's pretty good too. It's just like shells, two tributes. Um. So his effect, if he's tributed, is you can special summon two Qliphort monsters from your deck. The bad part is that they're destroyed during the end phase, but they happen to just go to your extra deck. So I mean, you can just pendulum back next turn. Voila. Um, Next up is Pendulum Dragon. I run two of these. So of course, the main reason is to search out a scout. But with Pendulum Dragon, you can also search out a tramp. So either one you need, you search it out. Um, Next up is Helix. Helix, along with Carrier, are two amazing cards for this deck. Helix is effect is when it's distributed, you could pop one spell or trap on the field. When then the Carrier's effect is when it's distributed, you could pop, well not pop, but send one monster card back to the opponent's hand or your own hand if you want. And see, I don't see this a lot, but a lot of times your Qliphort Scout will most likely get MST'd or destroyed by a card effect. And I don't know why I don't see this a lot, but people, like, you could just pendulum your carrier and your scout back from your extra deck, tribute your carrier, and then you can just pop scout back into your hand so it's not destroyed anymore and you can reuse it. I don't see that play a lot, but I don't know. Maybe people just haven't thought of it or they just don't want to, which I wouldn't understand why you wouldn't want to scout. Next up is Tramp. So Tramp is an amazing card. Um, when you pendulum summon, you can use his effect and send one pendulum zone monster back to your hand, which is pretty good. And I mean, Tramp is the only reason why this deck could mainly exceed at all. Because if you have Tramp and let's say Scout, so technically you would search for Scout, get something, then Pendulum, and then with Tramp, you can send Scout back to your hand. And since Scout isn't on the field, its effect of just special summoning Cliff monsters is not there anymore. So you could technically just exceed right there, and then after you exceed, just put Scout back on the field and use this effect again. So double search and exceed. Alright, so that's pretty much it for monsters, guys. Let's jump right into the spells. Rigeki. It's Rigeki, guys. I mean, it's good in any deck. Destroys all your opponent's monsters. Yep. Um, Next I run Triple Summoner's Arc. Again, it's just so you can search out a Scout. That's the only use this card has in this deck. I run double Pot of Duality, just in case you don't get anything good first turn, or whenever you could use Pot of Duality. I wouldn't recommend using it in this deck unless you have to, because once you use it, you legit can't special summon, so that means no Pendulum that turn. I run triple sack, which is like amazing. Your pendulum, not pendulum. Your Qliphort monster gains 300 attack. It counts as 2 tributes, and on top of that, it can be destroyed by battle. And then once they do destroy your Qliphort or do something or destroy this card and it's sent to the graveyard, you can add one Qliphort monster from your deck to your hand, which most of the time people add a scout that they don't have, or if they have scout, something else. Alright, so that's it for spells. Let's go to traps. So I run triple Clipper Launch because it's an amazing card. I mean, or normal summon Qliphort monster gain 300 attack and their effects are negated, and they are unaffected by spells and traps until the end phase. So, I mean, what that does is any normal summon Qliphort monster you have, like instead of their attack being 1800 like their effect says, they'll go back up to their original attack and they gain 300 attack. And they get the pleasure of not being affected by spells or traps that turn either. Yep. Next up is double Mirror Force. I mean, Mirror Force is just a good card to have in any deck because it saves you from attacks. Yeah. Next is Toriental Tribute. This card is amazing, in my opinion. It's pretty good for this deck too because I mean, if you have, let's say all you have is your Pendulum special summon monster on the field, your opponent comes out with like an amazing turn, Toriental Tribute that shit, and their monsters goes to the grave, but your monsters just go to your extra deck and next turn Pendulum back out. Alright, next up is double Vanity. Um, Now Vanity for me is like a 50-50. I mean, cause if you play, I mean, you literally can't Pendulum summon or anything. But I mean, it's a good card because you can stop your opponent from special summoning. Um, yeah. And I mean, if they do try to take Vanity out, that just wipes their resources, not yours. But pretty much, you're probably gonna wipe out your own Vanity if you use like Summoner's Arc, Pot of Duality, Sack, or anything else. Alright, so next up and the final card is Skill Drain. I run 3 of these. This card is unbelievably amazing for this deck. So you pay 1,000 life points, and then all face-up monsters on the field, their effects are negated. So not just do you get your opponent's monster's effect negated, you also get your monster's effect negated, which then boosts all your monsters up to their original attack, which is amazing. And then even if you use this card, you can still activate Helix's and Carrier's effect about popping the card or sending the card back to the hand. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck, guys. And let's jump right into the extra. All right, so I run one Cowboy. Cowboy is a pretty good card for any deck, um, just because it's Cowboy. Um, One Dweller. I mean, it's a pretty good card for when you're facing an opponent that's effects activate in the graveyard. But I really don't use Dweller that much. But yeah, Knight is a good card because I don't know. You could. I never really used Knight, but I mean, you can destroy all of the cards in the field. So I mean, it's pretty good card. Diamond Wolf. You could just pop him and or not pop him. You could just pop one of your Qliphort monsters. Actually, send it to your extra deck and then just pop one free card from your opponent. I want double Castile because I mean, he's just amazing. You can detach two materials and send one face-up card on the field and shuffle it into the deck. That's amazing. I mean, you could use the first effect too. You just attach one material and one face-up monster into the face-down defense, but pretty much people just use the second effect for him. Um, Harlan Draco. I mean, it's a pretty good card. It can attack your opponent directly if you detach a material. Sad part is your other monsters can attack. And then I really am not sure about this part, but while you control a face of spell cards, this can be targeted for attacks. And by theory, like pendulum monsters that are in the pendulum zones are literally spell cards, so I would say that it would that effect would be an effect, but I don't know. I mainly never run the extra deck, but just have it just in case. Next is Black Ship of Corn. Well, this card is pretty self-explanatory why you would run it. Yep. Um. So this card, Knight, he's pretty good. If a spell or trap or something is activated that targets only one monster, you could actually redirect that target to any card you want on the field. That's pretty nice. And finally, Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon. It's pretty good because you could just have like any monsters on your opponent's attack, and then this card gains like that half that they lost. So I mean, it becomes pretty good. All right. Now for the side deck, I only have 6 cards. I mainly just run 3 Typhoons just in case I need them. But in this deck, I mean, Helix is your Typhoon. So, yep. And then I run 3 Monarch Stormfort. It's pretty good because I mean, this deck you tribute a lot and stuff. So you can just use one of your opponent's monsters to do it. And plus, like, you can't special summon from your extra deck. It's not like you're gonna, most of the time, like 99% of the time, you won't summon from your extra deck in this deck because of Qliphorts' effect. But I don't run it in the deck because I think it's not as important as other cards that are in it. But yeah, thank you for watching. This is like my first profile ever, studying a lot and stuff. But I'll try to come out with more profiles later. Might come out with a Qliphort Obelisk deck, which is pretty good too. I mean, you have Qliphorts and you got Obelisk Tormentor game. Alright guys, thank you and subscribe and like and comment.